Well, in those attacks in Borno State, Islamist fighters distributed letters to residents in the local Hausa language, warning them not to work with the military, white Christian Westerners or other non-believers. It's the religious dimension of these ongoing attacks which has been highlighted in a report published by a Westminster cross-party group of British parliamentarians called Nigeria Unfolding Genocide. It states that over 1,000 Christians were killed last year, in addition to the estimated 6,000 plus deaths since 2015. It says Christian pastors and community heads are specifically targeted, and it cites survivors saying their attackers shouted Allah Akbar, destroying the infidels and wipe out the infidels. Well, hundreds of churches have also been destroyed, including over 500 churches in Benue State. Let's talk to Dr. Rowan Williams, a former Archbishop of Canterbury and currently the Master of Magdalen College in Cambridge. As a life peer in the House of Lords, he's written today about the findings of this cross-party report. Thank you so much for being here with us. These are horrifying attacks, aren't they?
They really are. And I think one of the problems is that it's only recently that the violence in what are called the Middle Belt states of Nigeria has come into focus in the way that Boko Haram has in the last couple of years. Because one of the things that's happening in those Middle Belt states in central Nigeria is the exporting of a Boko Haram and indeed Daesh, ISIS-influenced ideology from the northeastern states into the Middle Belt, so that historic conflicts there between different groups are being, as it were, ideologized. They're turning into religious conflicts.
Tell me more about what we mentioned there in the introduction, the specific threats aimed at Christians, very directly talked about by these militants. What are the sorts of stories that you're hearing?
I'm hearing a lot of stories about massacres in villages, about horrific, gratuitously brutal killings, and sometimes people being threatened with death if they won't convert. And this is part of a longer story in the central states of Nigeria, where there's a long-standing conflict, as in so many parts of the world, between pastoralists, nomadic herders, and settled farmers. In this area, most of the pastoralists tend to be Muslim, most of the settled farmers tend to be Christian. As grazing lands for the pastoralists are affected by desertification, the effects of global warming further north, they're moving further south, they're exerting pressure on the farming communities, and because those are largely Christian, they are very much in the firing line. But in the last few years, very definitely those largely Muslim groups pushing southwards have picked up a lot of the ideology of Boko Haram, so that these conflicts become much more nakedly about Muslim versus Christian. And yes, we hear these stories about attackers shouting Allahu Akbar and using the language of threat, the language of cleansing that they take from Boko Haram and the ISIS affiliates.
And in terms of the consequences, we mentioned there the amount of attacks. You were talking about villages that have been razed. Are Christians being driven out, or are they staying and having to actually just navigate somehow those sorts of horrifying risks?
At the moment, a safe guess of the number of displaced persons in the region is about 300,000. So a lot of them are, in fact, fleeing. Some choose to stay. Some are under pressure to engage in counter-violence. There have been some stories about that, but its effects have been relatively small compared with the very large numbers of Christians who've been killed by Muslim Islamist militants, I should say, because very often it's fellow Muslims who are also the victims of Islamist militants.
Now, we've had this Westminster report. I mentioned at the start of the introduction, the UN also condemning these attacks. In terms of the international dimension, what could be done to offer more protection, do you think?
There are a number of things which I think the international community can press on the Nigerian federal government, and also things that can be done in terms of international conventions. One of the things that's driving this conflict is the availability of arms, especially small arms, quite a lot leaking out from the Libyan conflict, interestingly enough. And there are a number of very, very wealthy cattle barons in the region who are quite prepared to arm some of these militias at considerable expense, so that there's a lot of up-to-the-minute equipment going on. So it'd be very good to have some focus on the arms trade and the enforcement of existing restrictions, especially on small arms. Second thing is the programs that have been worked out in recent years by the Nigerian federal government to do with a sort of equitable resolution of conflicts about land and grazing land. There's a national program of agricultural and livestock transformation that needs to be implemented more fully and more fairly. That's something which could be pressed. And then there's the question of education for nomadic herder groups, which has slightly slipped off the radar recently. So all those things, I think, are subjects that the international community can bring some pressure to bear about.
Well, we shall see if that transpires in the weeks ahead. Dr. Rowan Williams, thank you very much for taking time to speak to us. Thank you.